Hello friends, and welcome back to ReddX, your source for the freshest daily Reddit content anywhere on the internet. Totally promise, swearsies, it's just a fact. Anyways, today we are jumping into some rSlash PettyRevenge, which it's not a super popular subreddit, but it's definitely one of my favorites. I find it even better than Pro Revenge or Nuclear Revenge, personally, because if you can whittle someone down in a petty way without getting caught, that's just the best. So with all that said, I hope that you guys will enjoy these stories, and let's jump into them. Use my toothpaste and leave dirty crockery everywhere. Enjoy poorly cooked food for life. Dang. So I live with this guy who, while occasionally fun to live with, has a tendency to eat leftovers, drink my beer, take my toothpaste, God knows what he's doing with it, eating it, drop cigarette butts everywhere, and never, ever cleans the pots after cooking. As a person who enjoys cooking, this is a crime. The quickest he's ever done it is 3 hours, the longest is more than 7 days, and the rough average is 4 days. Way to get it crusted on there. We've all tried addressing this with him, but it doesn't seem to register, and I found getting frustrated only really ever affects me. After a particularly frustrating week, I've not only been made redundant, but have just had my car break down. I came down to cook and discovered he'd used every pan that we own, leaving them all dotted around the kitchen with noodles and tinned tuna stuck to them. Through the haze of desperation, I noticed that the oven was on with his pizza toasting within. Note that this choice pertained to the fact that he would have to wash up in order to cook anything else. The cheese was unmelted, crusts unburnished, so you could believe that I turned that mother effer down to 60 degrees. 45 minutes later, and he was still making trips to the kitchen, bemoaning his crappy pizza that wouldn't cook. Since then, I've turned down the hob whenever he's cooking pasta or vegetables and putting the oven on low for his jacket potatoes and ready meal. If he'd actually spent time in the kitchen beyond encrusting our dinnerware, I wouldn't get an opportunity. But hell, a place in the sun isn't gonna watch itself. Enjoy your crappy dinners, pal. Just beautiful petty revenge. The most petty of revenges. Mwah! Chef's kiss. That is just lovely. Obviously, I think it would be a lot more constructive to sit him down and have an adult conversation. But God, I just love the thought of this guy eating crunchy noodles while watching his K-dramas. Oh, that's hilarious. Keep it up, OP. This isn't about being mature or solving problems. It's about revenge. Petty revenge. Anyways, let's jump into the next story. I took petty revenge on a guy at the screening of Avengers Endgame. Tinder Guy 11. This guy is actually all over the channel. I've not pointed it out thusly, but he is responsible for the malicious compliance garbage story that we saw recently. He's responsible for Manager Beard, and I'm glad to shove him into a petty revenge video. Even though the post is kinda old, I thought I'd check up on him. And he still hasn't posted the third part of the Manager Beard saga, which is kinda sad, but whatever, we moving in. This happened last year. I had bought movie tickets for me and my then girlfriend to see Avengers Endgame on the opening weekend. I'll admit, I like the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, but I'm not what I would call a massive fanboy. To me, they're all pretty good, but generally forgettable. Regardless, I had been excited to see this one. Unfortunately, as fate would have it, I ended up sitting next to the most annoying moviegoer in cinema history. He was the type of guy that commented on everything during the movie, and not softly either. He was talking like he was at a football stadium. Black Widow appears on the screen. "Oh my god, that's Black Widow!" And then he would proceed to explain who the character is to the girl sitting next to him. Iron Man shows up on the screen, same story. That cringe-worthy scene with all the women being miraculously available during the final battle to pose for a poster, and then back up Captain Marvel. "Oh my god, it's the women! They're gonna kick some serious butt now!" You get the point, but this was his commentary throughout the whole film. The girl sitting next to him seemed so embarrassed that she was sliding deeper and deeper into her seat every time he opened his mouth. Cue the petty revenge. I had read online that Endgame had no post-credit sequence. Honestly, even if it had, I'm not sure that we would have stayed for it because my girlfriend and I both just wanted to get away from this guy. Before standing up though, I leaned over to him and told him that I'd already seen the movie this morning, and I'm not going to stay for the post-credit sequence again, but it's insane, and completely starts off Phase 4. The guy's face lit up as if he'd just been told he'd won the lottery. I walked out feeling good that I would at least be spoiling one part of the movie for him, because he had ruined the entire film for both me and my girlfriend. And everybody else there. And yes, I know he probably would have stayed anyways, but it made me feel better knowing that I had built up his hopes for nothing. See, that's the smart thing to do. Get your petty revenge on, and then get out, and you're probably never going to see that guy again. It kind of reminds me of this one time. I was on acid, went to see Pan's Labyrinth, because who wouldn't if you're tripping, and they were cleaning out the theater, and I got a little mad at the guy for telling me to leave, because they were still cleaning. So everybody else is like, oh, is the theater open? And I'm like, yeah, everybody go inside. So that guy had to tell all those people to leave, while me and my buddy went and played in the arcade, played a little Tekken. And then I ended up coming back, and apparently everybody was staring, but I was tripping way too hard to notice. That is petty revenge performed incorrectly. Although I guess it was revenge on the guy that was cleaning, so it kind of worked out, in a way. Ah, good times. To be young again. Anyways, let's hop into the next story. Currently enjoying the pettiest revenge. Oh my. My brother's lived with my husband and I for a couple of years now, but recently moved in with one of his friends. That was fine, but we had arranged for him to have a cell phone while he lived with us, and it was agreed that he would give it back. He almost immediately stopped answering our texts and our calls, and even stood us up by saying that he would be coming over to get the rest of his things and leave the phone, but then he never showed up. This resulted in us starting a new billing cycle, so now we have to pay for an additional month of service for that phone. This lasted about a week, but he finally did bring the phone back and picked up most of his belongings, leaving behind garbage and junk that my husband and I had to clean up. The revenge started today, when he realized that he needed some paperwork that he had left at my house to open a bank account. He even had the audacity to tell me that he needed it within an hour. It's looking like a whole lot of not my problem. Maybe I'll feel like answering those calls and texts tomorrow when I finish cleaning the room he trashed. I don't think him opening a bank account is really that urgent. Shouldn't he have done it all those months that he was, like, not doing anything at your house? Or I assume not doing anything. But that's probably a correct assumption, because it's not like he moved out on his own. He just moved on to a friend to leech off of them instead. So don't feel pressured at all to respond to him when he didn't feel pressured to respond to you. I would say, like, up and move and just completely disappear from his life. But that would lean towards the pro-revenge side of things. But this is nice and petty. I like that, OP. Thank you for sharing. Let's hop into another story. Call me a batch? Have fun getting home. This happened a few years ago when I was in school. I was friends with this guy who we'll call Dan. Dan and me were pretty close. We're the people who almost dated, but we never did. But I did go to his house a couple of times. He lived even further than me, and the journey home was about 1.5 hours for him by bus. Suddenly, he stopped talking to me for no reason, and stopped waiting for me as we used to take the bus home together. I asked him what the issue was. Apparently a girl that he was talking to thought I was pretty clingy, and didn't trust him hanging around me. We then had a huge fight about this, ending with him calling me a batch, among other things, especially stuff he knew I was sensitive about. I then obviously hated him, and was going to let it go, until a week or so later. I went to class, and there was his travel card. It had clearly fallen out of his pocket. I simply placed it between the textbooks that were stacked behind me. Dan wouldn't have been able to get home without the card, and I assumed that he didn't have his debit card on him because, well, he never does. He then wouldn't be able to replace it for a week at least, which would change the transport cost from free to double his week's pocket money. I overheard him telling someone the next day that his mom was mad that he had lost it, and that he had to stay at school for over an hour as his mom had to finish work and then come collect him. It wasn't a huge inconvenience, but it felt very good to make his day a little worse. Edit. By talking to, I assume there was some sort of romantic intentions. However, according to mutuals, nothing ever happened between them. When he stopped talking to me, this was completely sudden. He talked to me at break, and then I didn't see him at lunch. And I waited for him after school, as we would always catch the bus home. I ended up waiting for 15 minutes before I had assumed that he'd left earlier. However, in the past, he'd always texted me if he had to leave quickly. This caused me to wait longer for the bus and be home later, which is why I thought this revenge was particularly apt. The travel card would only have a small bit of money on it to be only used for transport, and as soon as a new one was ordered, the old one would be invalid and the money would be on the new one. High school is a serious place. These problems matter. No, but I do like that you didn't really go all out, you know what I mean? It's just kind of like, oh, the universe is telling me that I should take this. I should take this and hide it away into these textbooks where no one will ever look. Or probably somebody will end up looking, but I don't know if the card has a name on it or what the deal with that is. I don't think they do. I could definitely see why you'd be upset, OP. Because, yeah, somebody just stand you up like that and be like, oh, well, this person's more important than this other person, even though you don't have romantic relations with any of them. There are really no ties between anybody. In my personal opinion, that jealous girl was probably just trying to flex and be like, see, I can make you drop all your friends. And he's a simp, so you know he's going to. It's just sad. It's just sad. You hate to see it, but he did get a bit of comeuppance, and that's all I could really ask for. So good job, OP. Good job. Let's hop into that last story, and then I'm gonna get out of here. Don't pick a fight with a comedian. Yes. I definitely don't make a living at it, but I do stand-up comedy. I have a deep voice, and I get asked quite often if I work in radio. One night, about 5 years ago, I'm doing the audience meet and greet after a show when a very drunk guy asked me the radio thing. I launch into my standard, no, but thanks for the compliment about my voice, etc. And the drunk guy starts to get very belligerent and starts yelling, "You're lying! I recognize your voice! Why are you lying to me?" He points to the woman that he's with. "Why are you lying to my wife?" I really thought he might punch me. Then I calmly replied, "Oh, I know where you recognize my voice from. I work as a strip club DJ." I then turned to his wife and gave her a big smile, but I don't think she noticed because she was too busy giving him a murderous death glare. In case you're wondering, I was lying about the strip club DJ thing. Extremely well played, OP, first of all. But really, it's like, if you've got a comedian versus a drunk patron, the battle of wits is like Arnold Schwarzenegger with a baseball bat versus like a toddler. One of them is just going to get bludgeoned to death. Sort of reminds me of another story from my stand-up comedy days. Ah, yes. There was a drunk woman in the audience. I ended up asking her what she did, and she's like, "Oh, I'm a special ed teacher." And I flipped it around and was like, what if those kids don't need to be in special ed at all? They're only there because they're imitating you. Cue uproarious laughter. Audience work is honestly some of my favorite stuff to do, because it basically always works. And then if you can do the audience work and not worry about having to go soft on them, then that's even better. She had it coming. To be fair, she didn't get too butthurt, you know, stayed till the end of the show, and she was quiet after that, so I call that a victory. I didn't do stand-up for very long, couple years. I wonder how it would have developed if I had done it for 5 years plus, but I got into YouTube instead because it's easier. You can do it from home. And it's been working out alright. But regardless, friends, I hope that you'll like, comment, and or subscribe if you did enjoy this video. It is always, always appreciated. Join us tomorrow for some rSlash entitled Parents. I will keep my eye out for that manager beard story, and we'll get back into neckbeard stories as soon as it is feasible. Keep yourselves safe out there. Do not forget to wash your hands. Please, super important. The second wave of COVID. I swear it's coming. I'm not a mind reader. I just look at the past and see the future. You know what I mean? As soon as this video's over, I implore you to please go wash your hands. And oh, hey look, the video's over.